Malaysia does a really good job at integrating cultures, and it has been forced to do this over time. Do I think it happened a lot or even at all? And you don't really have to try, which actually sounds terrible. You're just walking like a chicken over there. Hey peeps, welcome back to the channel. My name is Drew, and today I'm going to do something I have never done before. This could go really good or it could go really bad. Let's find out together. I am going to rate Malaysia, what my overall feelings about the whole country is. First, we're going to look at things that I will miss and then things that I will not miss. And then we'll go ahead and rate some of the few things that tourists or even non-tourists alike may want to consider before traveling to Malaysia or even moving to Malaysia. So I think this gives a good general overview of what I experienced and how I feel about the country overall. We are going to be rating on a scale, if I can get the edits right, on a scale of 1 to 5 with Drew faces. And they'll pop up on your screen, and there'll be sad Drew face, and there'll be happy Drew faces. Let's go ahead and get started right in. First up, I want to talk about what I will miss about Malaysia. There is just so much to miss about Malaysia, and it's just a beautiful country with beautiful people that truly care about one another. And so the first thing that I will miss about Malaysia is the diversity. Malaysia does a really good job at integrating cultures, and it has been forced to do this over time. With that, I think as a local or a non-local alike, you have a very high probability of integrating and learning from other cultures into your normal life, whether that be through religion, food, just general living conditions. There's probably somebody around you that is doing something different than you. So there is such opportunity to learn from other people and other cultures and to integrate that into your own lifestyle. And I absolutely, genuinely love that about Malaysia. Second, let's all be honest, we will miss the food, the hawker stalls, and the local markets. Guys, these places, some of them are open 24 hours and you can get fresh food at all times. It is absolutely amazing and yummy. So whenever you walk into these hawker stalls, there is just a plethora of options. Depending upon where we were at, we had access to more hawker stalls or less hawker stalls. I personally love that culture, so whenever we were in Petaling Jaya and there wasn't any of that really around us, I definitely missed the markets and the local hawker stalls. The third thing I will miss about Malaysia is definitely the language and the ease of access into entering the country. It is just so nice coming from a Western country when so many people speak English and you don't really have to try, which actually sounds terrible because we should all be trying, especially you don't want these other cultures to lose their culture. So I don't want Malaysia to lose that Malaysian culture and the Malay language. Malay Bahasa, I think is what it's called. Or Bahasa Malay, I'm not for sure. You would think I would know by now. Anyways, I don't want them to lose that culture, and so I think that's very important. So I definitely want them to keep learning that language and doing that. Because they've integrated so many different cultures into their life, they have a common language, which is English. And so most people speak English. It's definitely easy, especially if you're coming from a Western country and if you've never visited another part of the world. It's just an easy country to go into. And lastly, the thing that I'll miss most is the Malaysian people. They are just so friendly and welcoming of other cultures. They definitely have a genuine interest in you, and they also want the best for you. And so they definitely have their opinions, and they will tell you their opinions, which is a little jarring and surprising at times. But when you look at it overall, they just want the best for you. And so that's why they're giving your opinion. In fact, we met a lady at the supermarket one time, and I told her that I bake bread from scratch. So she took my recipe right there, took all the ingredients with her home, and I was so scared because I was like, what if her bread doesn't turn out? And she just listened to me. It was really neat to see her listen to me, but at the same time I was like, I really hope that works out for her. But they're really genuinely interested in you, learning from you, and also giving their opinion back. For the few things that I can come up with that I will not miss about Malaysia, number one is definitely the hot weather. One of the things that Yen and I enjoy doing the most is just going outside and walking and seeing where we're at, what's happening, and looking at the culture from just walking about. And in Malaysia, that can be very, very difficult to do when it is so hot and humid outside. Even at night when we went out, I would get rashes on my back and rashes on the back of my head just from the humidity. So that just made it extremely difficult all the time. The second thing that I will not miss about Malaysia is the longer commute times. If you don't stay in the city center and you stay out on the outskirts of Kuala Lumpur, I guess really any city, you will have longer commute times into the city, or you end up paying for like a Grab or something like that. So if you don't have a car, there is longer commute times, or you will pay more money just for that convenience. And the last thing that I will not miss about Malaysia is trying to find coffee without sugar. All I wanted to do was go into the grocery store, not pay a gazillion dollars for a Starbucks branded coffee, which doesn't even taste that good in the first place. And I just wanted a normal coffee without sugar. That was so difficult to find. We did find it, but it was very difficult and we could only find it at one grocery store. I need my coffee, guys. I need my coffee. Okay, so let's get into some of my general categories of what I would rate a country as a whole and being a tourist and how I feel about that. So our first category, which I think most people are most interested in, is safety and security. Whenever I'm walking around the country, do I feel safe? Whenever I go out at night, what's that like? Etc., etc. So overall, Malaysia feels like a very, very safe country. Compared to South America, I was just walking around like it was a breeze. Yin and I really don't do anything that will get us in trouble. We don't go out drinking at night. We don't go to dangerous areas. I don't even know, I'm sure there are dangerous areas in Malaysia. I just don't know them. We just don't do anything that would get us in trouble. So we try to stay in touristy places during the day. Don't go to touristy places late at night, things like that. As far as just walking around feeling safe, I felt 100% safe most of the time. Other things that kind of relate to safety and security are things like being overcharged. Do I feel like as a tourist, I was just overcharged all the time while I was there? I do not feel that I was overcharged all the time. However, Yin could go and ask for a price for something, and then I could ask for a price for something, and sometimes we get two different prices. Yin does have an advantage. She does know some of the local language. She is Chinese Malaysian background, and so she definitely has that culture in hand. Do I think sometimes we could be overcharged because I am not a local? Yes. Do I think it happened a lot or even at all? I don't know. I can't really remember a time when that would be the case. But I feel like if I was buying touristy goods, I would probably be overcharged a little bit. Not much, but just a little bit. And the last thing that was interesting for Malaysia, because I did actually look for a camera while I was there, like one for YouTube filming GoPro. And what happened was I was coming across so many fake items. With that, I didn't know if I should pay for the lower priced item or if I should go ahead and spring for the full priced item and knowing that I have warranty with that company. So that's one thing in Malaysia that was very kind of difficult for me to navigate well, because I didn't know, was it worth it to pay less or should I just go ahead, pay more, get it over with? Overall, safety and security, I would give Malaysia a 4.5 out of 5 Drew faces. I can't give it a perfect rating because if I'm out and about alone and I'm being stared at, sometimes I get stared at in Malaysia a lot. So that can be uneasy, especially when I'm out alone. But nobody ever did anything wrong, so I can't fault anybody for that, but it's just kind of odd to be stared at sometimes. So that's the only reason I would give it a 4.5 out of 5 for safety and security. Our next category is transportation and ease of access. So whenever we first got there, arrived at the airport from our flight from Australia, we took a Grab to our apartment in Puchong. Because of where our apartment was in Puchong, and it was later in the evening whenever we arrived, it was like 9 o'clock whenever we arrived to our apartment, we decided just to take a Grab and forfeit that cost. Grabs are not super expensive. So for convenience, it was worth it. But from our apartment in Puchong, coming from the airport, it would have taken hours to get there and multiple forms of transport. But when we went back to the airport from coming in from Melaka, because of coming into TBS and then going to our hostel from TBS, we took the KLIA Express, which is so amazingly quick. It goes directly from the airport to the city center. It costs a little bit more money, but it would definitely be cheaper than a Grab overall, unless you have like a whole group of people. To and from the airport is extremely easy unless you're just in an obscure place like we were in Puchong. Overall in Malaysia, we had really good transport options. It would just take a long time. So yeah, Grabs are cheap, but if you take 20 of them, they add up. So our goal is to keep our transportation costs low. And most of the time between the buses, the light rail, the train, the subway, like this is how many transportation options they have. They have like every single kind, and you definitely can get almost anywhere in the city if you want to take the time to do that option. Convenience wise, you can take a Grab. If I lived in the city, I would probably definitely get a car unless I lived just really near good transport overall. In Melaka, the transportation, we had different buses, and we didn't ever know when the bus was going to show up, but it always showed up. Even in Melaka, small town, we could walk around a lot, which really helped us. Kuala Lumpur, you can't walk as much, but in Melaka, we had the bus if we needed it, and that's how we got around. We never took a Grab in Melaka at all. We took the bus or we walked. So even in smaller town cities like Melaka, there are transportation in Malaysia. Overall, I would give Malaysia a 4 out of 5 Drew faces on the transportation scale, just because there was times whenever we would have to walk 30 or 40 minutes to get somewhere, just because there was no buses or it was really difficult and took so much longer to get to that place. They have every single transportation in the book. It is absolutely phenomenal. It just takes time. Our next category is a language barrier, and as I mentioned earlier, because of the different integrations of cultures and these people being so accepting of others, they actually know English very well. There is a very, very tiny language barrier. We did come across people that don't speak any English, but if you just walk 2 more feet, there's probably somebody that speaks English. It's not that big of a deal. It makes it very easy for tourists to come in and get around, see things, ask questions, and not have to feel intimidated by using Google Translate all the time or just gesturing. If you have never been in a situation where you are just purely gesturing with somebody to try to get your point across and you're squawking like a chicken over there, like, you know that language can be a huge barrier. But in Malaysia, 5 out of 5, excellent. Language barrier, not an issue. We made it to the tasty category of what do I think about their food and what's my overall impression of that. So as far as the food is concerned, most things I genuinely loved. I loved apam balik is my favorite, the thick, chewy apam balik, not the crunchy one. So delicious. Apam balik is a peanut pancake. I loved a lot of the dessert soups, so tofu pho, lin chi kong. There was another, the ABC special chendol. So delicious and so refreshing on hot days. Malaysia definitely integrates cooling stuff into that warm weather situation, which is really great. I loved some of their noodle dishes like char kway teow. Food is overall delicious. The only thing that I didn't like about the food in Malaysia is the fishiness stuff. Because I don't come from near an ocean, we don't eat a lot of fish where I'm from. But Malaysians definitely integrate fish into a lot of their dishes, which makes it such an amazing culture of food. So I would never tell them, like, you should stop putting fish in your dish. No, no, no. Like, that is so prominent in their cuisine. It would just take me a minute to be able to adjust my taste buds to getting used to that. Not only do you get Malaysian food, like food made with Malays, but then you have Chinese food. And you have Indian food, the roti and the curry. Oh, kill me now. Like, so delicious. Malaysian food, I would give this, just because I don't like the fish, I would give it a 4.5 Drew heads out of 5. Most of it is absolutely delicious, and I think the other stuff I would just have to get used to. My taste buds would just have to get used to. There's such diversity in Malaysia, and you can get it, like I said earlier, almost at any time of the day. Malaysia, keep that food stitch up, if you know what I'm saying. Our next category is cost of living. And one thing that I love about Malaysia is that you can almost live like a local if you are not a local. There isn't that barrier between you're either a tourist or a local. And a lot of countries have a barrier of that, and Malaysia doesn't. Like when it came to our accommodation, we paid around 1,700 ringgit a month for accommodation. We didn't pay any more than that. We found every single place on Airbnb and we negotiated offline. If we would have done it on Airbnb, it would have been more expensive. I do not really recommend that just anybody go and negotiate off Airbnb, because Airbnb gives you certain protections that if you go off of that, they can just take your money and run. That kind of tells you how trustworthy Malaysians are, is that we just negotiated off. We even signed a contract with our landlord in Melaka to give her protection and us protection. Overall, our accommodation was pretty cheap. We always stay kind of farther out just to keep the price down low. If we were staying in the center of KL, and we did stay in Petaling Jaya, it was more expensive. For the shared place, we paid the most money, whereas in Puchong, we had a 3-bed, 2-bath to ourselves for less money. Staying out farther in KL, you get more for your money, of course, but that's like any big city. Overall, accommodation, pretty great for us. I would say food pricing was quite cheap. While we were there, I would say some stuff almost doubled in price while we were there, and it also depended where we were at and what grocery store we had access to. In Puchong, we had Hero, so at Hero they have like a 2 ringgit rack of fruits and vegetables that I could go, or they would have specials, whereas in Petaling Jaya, we had to shop at Village Grocer, and Village Grocer is expensive. So every day we would go to Village Grocer and shop off their clearance rack of fruits and vegetables. So even though the price is like exponentially high at Village Grocer, we would shop their clearance fruits and vegetables and get it for half price, and it was cheaper than what we were paying at other places. So we learned to hack the system overall, but it definitely depends where you're at. In Melaka, we went to the family store and bought all their sell items every week. Some of that was so cheap, guys. We would get a kilo of sawi for 99 cents, like ringgits, like 1 ringgit per kilo. That's how cheap some of the stuff at the family store was. There's definitely, if you hit the sales, you can get such cheap food. Of course, in KL and other places, you can find the most expensive thing of expensive things. For transportation, the cost of transportation is quite low. If we would spend like a whole day out and about in the city, we would spend around 10 ringgit, and that was just like one subway ride there and back. We typically had to take a connector bus to get to a subway or an ERL, so all that adds up over time. It wasn't that terrible, because if you think about 10 ringgit, it's like $2 or $3 for a full day out and about. It just takes a lot of time, like I said. If you're going to pay for a Grab, still really cheap overall, but adds up. And if you have a car, aren't you lucky? Also, KL has a lot of free buses. I think they were stopping some of the free tourist buses, but locals could still go for free. The only downfall I would say about the transportation cost is that sometimes you get on a bus and it's a set price. No matter if you go 1 stop or 20 stops, it's a set price. And that can get a little expensive if you're just needing it for a connector or something like that. Overall, I would say that with cost, Malaysia is probably a 4 out of 5 Drew heads. You can get really expensive or you can get really cheap. Convenience, ease of access, you just pay more. But isn't that everywhere in life? With all that being said, would I go back to Malaysia for a 3rd time? Yes, I would go back to Malaysia for a 3rd time. We spent 6 months or 7 months, I don't know how long there this time. And I would say that if I go back, I want to go to places that I haven't been before, whether that means smaller towns or on the ocean or some islands or something like that. KL is amazing. It has so much stuff to do, but it can get repetitive and tiresome. It's kind of just like a big city. Malacca has so much to offer, but you can get done with Malacca probably easily within a week if you're really just resting a lot, which is what we do. So I would just want to go back for places that I haven't really been before and maybe explore some of the more obscure places in Malaysia, because I think there's just so much more to be seen in that country than the small jaunts that I've done within my past 2 trips. So my overall rating of Malaysia, I would give it a 4 out of 5 Drew heads because of the ease of access of language and transportation, the different diversity within the culture that allows other people to come in. It allows them to learn. It allows Malaysians to learn from other people and other people groups. I just really enjoy that. I think that everybody should go and experience Malaysia. However, because of the hot weather, it's just really hard to fully enjoy a day out and about unless you have a car or are in air conditioning all the time. It makes it difficult to walk around, and that is something that's very high on my scale personally of going to visit another country. For any tourists watching this video, if you've made it to this point, you definitely should go to Malaysia, especially if you have never left a Western country or a country that speaks English, or maybe even like if you just have small English skills. I don't think you'll do bad in Malaysia. Overall, yes, you should go to Malaysia. I definitely love Malaysia. I love the people. I'm just so happy that I even got to go there for such an extended period of my life. Besides the US, Malaysia is the country where I've spent the most time in my entire life. For now, it's just held such a special place in my life, and I've met such wonderful people. Malaysia, keep up the good work. Keep up your spirit of love and acceptance of other people. Bring in diversity whenever you can, because it will just change everything for the better. That's my opinion. Thank you for watching today. I would love it if you enjoyed this video, if you subscribed and liked. Comment whether you think this is an accurate representation of the country or what you think I should do next time I get to come to Malaysia. I would love that. I have so many amazing, wonderful followers, and I'm very amazingly grateful for you. Let's go out and make the world 1% better today, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye, guys.